All right, the second half of our day one lesson is we are going to practice writing expressions from words to symbols. So for example 1, and again, make sure you are following along in your note packet, filling in these examples so you can reference them later on. The first one, we are going to write the following expression in symbols. And today we're going to focus on quotient, product, sum, and difference. And then we will slowly add in some additional words that mean adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So for example 1, we want the product of 3 and a variable x. So right away, you should identify product as one of our vocabulary words. And product means we are going to multiply. And when we have the product of a number and a variable, we do not use a multiplication sign. So all we are going to do is write the number first and the variable next to it. And this would be our answer in symbols. So the product of 3 and a variable x would be written as 3x. Okay. So this next one, I would like you to pause and try this example on your own, and then hit play once you have your answer. All right, so hopefully now you have your answer for example 2. This one says the product of a variable y and 5. So again, I identify the word product here. That tells me I'm going to multiply. And then we have a variable and a number. So when we write a product with those two, the number goes first and the variable goes second. And because one is a number and one's a variable, we do not use a multiplication sign. So we would just write it as 5y. Good. All right, our next one, write the following expression in symbols. This one says the quotient of a variable t and a number 5. So in this one, first thing I identify is the word quotient. And quotient means divide. And when we talked about the quotient, whichever part shows up first goes on the top of our fraction. And then whichever one shows up on second goes on the bottom. So when we write this as a quotient, we are going to write t over 5. And that would be our quotient. All right, so again, I would like you to pause and try this next one on your own and then hit play once you have the answer. Okay, so hopefully you have your answer. We're going to write our expression in symbols again. This one says the quotient of 9 and a variable b. So remember, whichever one shows up first goes on the top, and whichever one shows up second goes on the bottom. So our quotient of 9 and a variable b would be 9 over b, making that our answer. Example 5, again, we're writing an expression in symbols. This one is saying the sum of a variable z and 10. When we talk about sum, this one means adding. And if you look back at our definition for sum, we wrote a note that said order does not matter. So this one technically has 2 correct answers. You could write z plus 10, but if you wrote 10 plus z, both would be correct. You do not have to write both, so you only need to pick one of those answers when you write your work. All right, so then for example 6, again, I'd like you to pause it, try writing this one on your own, and then hitting play. So again, on this problem, you should have your answer. We have sum again, which means adding, and we are doing the sum of 25 and a variable u. So these are the 2 numbers we are adding together. So you could have wrote 25 plus u, or you could have wrote u plus 25. Either one of those would be counted correct for this problem. So if you don't have the correct answer, make sure you fix it. So when you look back at your notes, you will have that available. Okay. Then next, we have another writing and expression in symbols, the difference of 10 and the variable r. When we talk about difference, that means we are subtracting. And when we subtract, order matters. So when we subtract, whichever one shows up first is also going to show up first in our subtraction sentence. So we would have to write 10 minus r. All right, and then again, I would like you to pause the video and try this next one on your own. Okay, so you should have your answer by now. Write the following expression in symbols. It told us the difference of a variable j and 15. And we talked about this on the last one. Difference is subtracting. And then we have j first. So when I write it, I'm going to write j minus 15. And that is the only correct answer. If you had 15 minus j, that means something very different. So that is not a correct answer. You do not want to write that one. Okay, so at this point, you are going to do the independent practice on the 3.1 worksheet. It is going to be more practice writing expressions from words to symbols. And you're going to complete the worksheet by the next class period. And then come with any questions you might have.